Good morning, students. Mr. LeBlanc here today with LeBlanc's Takeaways. Today we're going to start talking about the Texas Revolution, Battle of the Alamo, and basically how Texas wanted to become part of the United States. And this all builds off of this idea of manifest destiny and owning from sea to shining sea. In the early 1830s, Mexico basically did not have anyone living in the region of where Texas currently is. And what they did was they basically offered it up to anyone who wanted to live there. That's it. Anyone wants to live there. We just need people living in the land. There's a lot of crime going on, and they thought that if they could occupy the vacant land, the crime rates would go down. The biggest stipulation was that you had to be Catholic and you had to become a Mexican citizen. More and more people began moving there for a fresh start. They thought it was a great land to ranch on. A lot of ranchers moved down there. And as people began moving down there, they kind of stopped paying attention to what the Mexican government said or wanted the settlers to do, even though it was land. And eventually, citizens went to Mexico City, the capital at that time, and basically tried to draft up papers for it to become an independent state, so not part of Mexico. A person was jailed. At the time, the president, Santa Anna, in my opinion, kind of got a little greedy with this. He got rid of the Mexican Constitution, named himself a dictator, and basically wanted everyone in Texas to either follow his rules or he was going to forcibly make them and or kill them. At this time, this is called the Texas Revolution, because a lot of Texans were trying to revolt against Santa Anna and fight for their own independence. They didn't like the way things were going down. They didn't like how his rules he was trying to enforce. They didn't like a dictatorship, so on and so forth. Santa Anna sends his army up in an attempt to capture it. This is where the famous Battle of the Alamo takes place. I believe it was 187 people held off Santa Anna's army for about 11 and a half, 12 days. When all said and done, Santa Anna did take the Alamo. He killed all 187 people, with the exception of one woman and one child. Even when they surrendered, he still lined them up, executed them, and this actually became known as the battle cry, like remember the Alamo. Texans began fighting for these people who had given their lives for the Texas independence. Eventually, Santa Anna is going to be captured. He's forced to surrender. He's put in jail, and they force him to recognize Texas's independence. Once Texas becomes an independent state away from Mexico, they instantly want to become part of the United States. Many of the people who were living there at one point were Americans who just moved to get free land. So it would be very, very easy for them to become American. However, President Andrew Jackson did not allow them to become Americans, only because we had the sectional balance between state and free states in Senate, House of Representatives, and Congress in general, and he didn't want to disrupt that balance of slave states and free states. A few years later, James Polk does accept them as part of the United States. In fact, he takes it a step further, and he really, really wants to get his hands on New Mexico, Arizona, and California. We want that idea of destiny. We want to own from sea to shining sea. So basically, whatever he can to kind of invoke or provoke a war with Mexico, like, hey, I'm going to go kind of into Mexico with my army and see if you want to fight me. And this is going to lead to the Mexican-American War, which we're going to build off of in my next video. So until then, if you have questions on the Texas Revolution or the Battle of the Alamo, please comment box or reach out to me. Other than that, have a great day. Be smart.